If you're a first-generation founder building a brand from scratch, this series was made for you. Let's go. In 1960, Brazil did what some called impossible. They built an entire capital city from scratch in just 41 months. For anyone who's got a kid, they're less than 5 years old. 27 years later, UNESCO declared it a World Heritage Site, not because of the age of the city, but because of the intentionality that it was designed with. Most business owners are told to build fast and break things. They grab a domain, they start selling, maybe they throw up an LLC along the way, if I'm lucky. And it works for a while until it doesn't scale. Until a team member quits, takes your process with them, until a copy Karen or a copy Carl steals your name. Until you try to sell the business and realize there's nothing of value here other than a website and an email list. In this series, we're talking specifically about intellectual property with a heavy focus on trademark law. Because trademark law is what gives you inherently something of value in your company to sell, to license, to rent out. It helps you protect your brand name before somebody else makes a move on it. Because what I see every day are founders who move fast, launch first, fix later, and the business works until it doesn't, until it can't scale. It doesn't protect what they thought they were building. It doesn't hold value the way that it should. So this series is gonna be your napkin sketch, which will make sense in a minute, I promise. Let's build something UNESCO-worthy together. Welcome to the Brasilia Blueprint. I'm Samantha Bradshaw, the traveling trademark lawyer, and if you want a business that's built to last and maintain some value while you're at it, we have to start where Brasilia started, with a napkin. This city was built by people who believed in a future that they couldn't see yet, and you're doing the same thing. But if you're a first-generation founder, nobody handed you the blueprint. You're building completely from scratch. Without a safety net that legacy businesses take for granted, you had to figure out the product, the branding, the marketing, the legal, and you still feel like there's something missing. And frankly, that's probably because there is. By the end of the series, you're going to know exactly what in your business is actually protected and what's exposed, and what are the different avenues you can use to protect them without spending $10,000 on a lawyer before you even know what to ask. Because right now, you're trying to manage the entire city at once. You are the infrastructure, the police, the janitor, the guy working at the coffee shop over there. In order to grow, you have to delegate that power to systems, not just people. So, to show you what's actually missing, I want to take you back to 1956 and a city that was created on the back of a napkin. There was a national competition to design this city. 26 big-name studios with massive binders. Some of them submitted huge aluminum frames and complex graphics showing what the entire city was gonna look like. One firm spent 400,000 cruzeiros. That's a lot of money. That's all you need to know. Way too much money on submitting for a competition. And then there was this guy, Lucia Costa. Do you think he won with his name behind me? Probably. He had no office, no big staff, and he went to a bar, sat down with a pencil and an eraser, a few sheets of regular paper, and a napkin. Very first draft of the entire city took him 64 hours to finish and cost him a total of 25 cruzeiros, not 400,000. He won because the vision was so stupidly clear, it didn't need fluff. He sat down at the bar with a beer or a caipirinha in hand, so he drew, very simply, an X to mark where Brasilia was going to be. And along this route, he put all of the government buildings up at this, it looks like a plane. So at the fuselage, at the cockpit, with Congress in the center, the Supreme Court over on the right, and then the President's Palace facing it. So it created this perfect equilateral triangle for the three powers of government to stare down each other and keep each other in check. And then all the houses would run along this other axis. He said, what do people need once they live in houses? They need places to buy things. So in between each of those, he put places to buy things. And he's like, and what else do they need? They need places to enjoy. They need places to live life. So I'm gonna build them a giant park and a lot of space in between all of these with little mini parks. Everyone always has access to them. And then just because I can, I'm gonna build a massive lake and dam up the river. It was that simple. The entire design of the city could be on a single napkin. Like I said, do you think he won? I think he did. Because when the foundation is planned with this level of clarity, you compress time. As a business, you can scale faster because you're not constantly rebuilding the engine while you're driving. Do you want to go see what he built? If legal feels like a black hole, try not to worry too much. The blueprint does exist, and we're gonna draw the napkin right now. Was building this city that should have taken 50 years to get going in 5 expensive? enormously. It cost about $1.5 billion adjusted to today's money. Critics called it 50 years of inflation in 5. Public opposition was intense, and the academics mocked it. But the city is still standing, still UNESCO protected, still functional after 60 years. I want a trademark to do that for you. Before I show you the plaza that changed how I explain legal structure, I built something very specific for this series. It's called the city map. A bug in my face. Okay, so the city map. Every single piece of legal architecture mapped out in a single place. And it's free. The link is down below in the description, and I'd love for you to grab it now because what we're about to cover, you might want to mark up that map. This one too. Okay, let's talk about real power. Welcome to the heart of Brasilia's political system. This is Tres Poderes Square, meaning 3 powers in English. From here, it looks quiet, boring, and hot. But the reality is, this invisible center of power is what makes the entire city function. Your business has an invisible center like this too. It also needs 3 systems working in total sync. You need your structure, aka the president's palace. You need contracts. You need the rules of the game that you're about to play. Congress is the one who writes those for our day-to-day life. And then you need your intellectual property protections to decide who gets to play with what you've created. We've got the Supreme Court for that. Just like when these 3 structures are working well in the government, when they work well in your business and they're overlapping and protecting each other, you don't feel them. But when a crisis happens and the protesters show up, when the angry clients show up, when the bad collaboration tells you what was bad about the collaboration and starts threatening you, these are the systems that determine if your business gets to stand, if the democracy gets to go on another day, or if, we fill the square with protesters and nobody can find a bathroom. It starts smelling really bad. Today, I'm going to show you how to build a system of power that lets you sleep without the smell of piss in your square. The Praça de Tres Poderes, the square of 3 powers, although you can't see it from where we're standing, if you zoom out and look at this from the sky, this plaza is basically a diagram. 3 buildings equidistant from each other that hold the power so the rest of the country can function. Or at least try to. We all know how good the government is. In your business, you cannot be the only source of authority forever. You have to delegate the power to these 3 structures. First, we have the executive. This is the Palacio do Planalto. This is where the president lives. That's all you need to know. He doesn't actually, no, that's not his house. His house is that way. Sorry. The guy who, this is your LLC. This is what gives you the power to act. The guy whose office is in this building, he's the one that signs all the laws, just like your LLC is the entity that should be signing your lease, signing your contract, hiring your team, getting the employees ready so that you don't take the risk, your company does. It's the shield that says this is a business acting, this is a government acting, not an individual, not the human. And this is the National Congress. These are the laws that you get to write, your contracts, your best practices, your own internal policies. This is the power to govern. This is how you delegate decision-making so it doesn't all have to come from one place, nor should it. So your team knows how to deal with an energy vampire or a payment delay without calling you for every single decision. It's not possible that one person in one building run everything. This is what allows you to scale, expand, serve more, hire more, do more good for more people. Next up, we have the Supreme Court. This is the Supreme Court. These are your judges, the ones who decide who is allowed to use your name, your content, the stuff that you uniquely came up with. This is your intellectual property. They also get to decide who gets to shut it down. When you combine ownership and authority without rules, your city is going to run on vibes, not systems. And if you've seen Richmond in a snowstorm and seen how their water pipes break, you know that's not very fixable. That's what contracts, policies, best practices are for. If you have ownership and rules without authority, then we're putting your personal assets at risk. But if you connect rules and authority with no real ownership, it means everything you're doing is copyable. Legal isn't the end-all be-all, and I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that it is. You still need marketing, finance, sales, operations. You need all of these things to make your city thrive. Regardless of all of these parts, you can only grow a city, though, as large as your infrastructure allows. If your identity gets copied, your reputation gets diluted. The authority section, it can save you money. Contracts manage your money, right? The LLC is going to make sure that if something goes wrong, we know exactly who to blame and it's not you. And they're not going to go after your stuff. The contracts are going to make sure that you get money in the right way, in the way that you want. This, the intellectual property, it's going to make you money. It's going to allow you to scale in a way these other two simply cannot, because it becomes an asset that you can rent, sell, build equity from. That's why this building matters so much. It's your enforcement power, it's leverage, and specifically, the most identifiable piece of this city map for a service business or a brand is the trademark on your name, because that's the flag that you plant so nobody else gets to fly it without your permission. The Brasilia Blueprint series is really going to focus on intellectual property here. True ownership, because it's the most misunderstood power, and frankly, the most urgent for most founders. If you look at these arches, the ones reflected in the water, not the ones right behind me, if the structure above is built well and uniquely, and there's no wind, the reflection is perfect. If it's windy, if a storm is getting ready to come in, or if something is off up top, or if they're just cleaning this pool, the water will tell you immediately that something is wrong. It's not going to have this perfect reflection. And that's kind of trademark law. Your brand name, your logo, your identity, they only hold value if what's underneath them is solid, or what's above them isn't causing problems today. That might mean a perfect LLC, solid contracts. Those things are powerful, and building LLCs and tightening contracts, those are things that I do too. Also business lawyer. But they don't give you real ownership that you can pass on to someone, that you can sell for something. Without ownership, your brand has no legal standing to put down roots. You can't stop someone from using what you built. The reflection in the water, well, it becomes distorted. Over the course of this series, here's what we're going to be building. We're going to zone your assets, trademark, trade dress, copyright, patent. We're going to figure out what IP actually is for you. We're going to cover what makes a name actually protectable and why your perfect name might be legally worthless. We'll cover surviving the US Patent and Trademark Office without the law school lecture, because I know that's not what you want today, and what they actually do with your application once you submit it, what it means when you have a registration. We'll talk about what a trademark is really worth, how to monetize it, license it, make it an asset, not just for your business, but for you personally. Every video in this series is going to build on the last, so please don't skip ahead unless you already know the video that we're talking about. The zones that we'll talk about next only make sense in order. We need clarity in the water, so let's start there. Look, there's a lot of lawyers on the internet, good ones. They're teaching you what trademark law could mean for your business. They're teaching you how to read a US Patent and Trademark Office action, what to do when someone copies your brand. Most of them are teaching you like you already went to law school or you want to. This series is built differently because when I started working with first generation founders, I realized the problem was never the information. Everything I'm telling you is accessible on the USPTO website or in a law book. You don't need another lecture. You might want a map that translates it into something you can understand and only the things that you need to know. A metaphor that makes something click, maybe a few facts about a city that went from a napkin to a world capital in 41 months, because that story sounds a lot like what you're trying to do. That's all building from scratch. But here's what I really want you to hear before we get to episode 2. Getting the legal stuff done right, and I mean really deeply done right. Not just this administrative moment or paperwork or a legal process for most founders. It's the moment that folks actually start believing in what they're building, believing in their own brand. You know that feeling when you're applying for something, the proposal for the big client, the application to work with the big corporate entity that could make your career, the pitch to the VC founders that could literally change everything. And as you're hitting submit, you're sitting there thinking, is this actually good enough to do what I needed to do? Did I build something real enough? And then you find out that you've got it. You won. You're in. That's the moment that I'm chasing for you in this series. The moment that Lucia Costa got to have when his napkin turned into the sketch that beat the massive established firm and built this city. The moment that you realize, this is real. I built this. And it's protected. And if you're not there yet, that's okay. It's exactly why we're here. By the end of the series, I want you to know what's possible for you. And I'll also say this, and we're going to come back to it later in the series because it deserves its own conversation, but I just want to drop it a little bit here now. For some of you watching, getting legal protection for your business, it's not just a strategy or a box you need to check. It's correcting something very, very deep for many of us. We're going to talk specifically about why intellectual property matters so much for some founders. Founders whose grandparents legally weren't allowed to start a business, own a business, expand a business, or build anything that they could not have taken from them. The point of this is I want to show you how to get the things that can't be taken from you. That episode's coming, and it really matters, so I hope you'll stick around for it. for right now, there's just 3 things that I need you to know. 1, the city map is in the description below. It's the blueprint for this entire series. We're gonna walk through what every one of these buildings mean, including this mall behind me and how it applies to you. 2, I want you to take the trademark quiz. It'll tell you exactly where you are right now, today. 3, I would love for you to subscribe. It helps out this channel, it helps me do this work, because episode 2 is where we're gonna go into the zones. That being said, if you don't want to subscribe, we are putting together something called our Blueprint Dispatch, where if you sign up for that, we will send the episode straight into your inbox, so you don't have to come find me somewhere here on YouTube. In the next episode of the Brand Blueprint Brasilia edition, we're talking trademark, copyright, trade dress, patent. And I promise you, you're never going to look at your business assets the same way again. I'll see you there. Let's build.